So the 22nd of January was it's Caitlin Clark's birthday. It's also the day the great Leeds United beat Norwich City 2-0, which is hence why I'm not home right now. But so today we got to talk about something that's like I think in isolation this is a weird situation, but I think it's fair to talk about the totality of the situation. And not only where it's like things that have like almost been hijacked, but either way, let's talk about it. So first of all, Ari Chambers is obviously someone who works for the WNBA. Went and quote or pinned a tweet, "The WNBA is so important," and she's who's constantly has been saying that for years. Look, one of the biggest advocates of the WNBA, and someone who I would say is not one of the bad ones. I really mean that. I want to say this. She is not one of the bad ones. And it's hard to say she's like, one of the good ones, because there are not that many of them, but she's not one of the bad ones. She's one of the good ones. That's a better way of saying it in a more positive way. But she's not a grifter. She's not like a rage baiter. She's one of the good ones. And she's posted this, the WNBA is so important, and obviously got a lot of backlash. And I think the reason for this is not because of what Ari Chambers said. And I think in a vacuum, I stand by my point. The WNBA is so important. Someone said there's no way people are triggered by the motto WNBA is so important being a bad thing. I was like, the WNBA is important. The WNBA has nothing to do with a charity that Caitlin Clark set up while in college. Obviously, it's talking about the charity, and both statements are true of zero relevance. Someone said she's part of WNBA, and I was like, yes, the WNBA is so important. The work done by WNBA players is also so important. But in a lot of cases, the league itself has nothing to do with the latter, and the initial tweet implied that. I tweeted this out not knowing the context of this situation, so I'm going to take my L on that one. I'm going to take my L on that one. I didn't know the context. So obviously knowing the context now, I still think the general purpose of my tweet makes sense, but given the context that I now know, I'm not that I'm wrong, but given the context, probably it's not a battle it's not a battle to fight, if you get me. But I still think the statement I made is correct, but in this specific context, no, it was not the right time to use it. Not the right time to use it at all. And I think the problem is that if you don't know who Ari Chambers is, and I knew who she was, did not know that this was a phrase that she used. This reads like a Sheila Johnson quote. Okay, Caitlin Clark does this on her birthday. Oh, the WNBA is so great, is so important. It's like, well, this sounds like without knowing the context, this reads like a Sheila Johnson quote. If you don't know who Sheila Johnson is, she's the Mystics owner that said, why not put the whole WNBA on the cover? It reads like it could be a Sheila Johnson quote. And I think that's fine. That's fine. But what we have seen come out of this has been some of the most ridiculous things. Like somebody, I remember someone tweeted out something like, the fans attacking her, you guys are awful. And I'm like, for harassment. And people did cross the line. Completely people crossed the line with Ari Chambers. And I do think that there's obviously lines to not cross, but the problem is that we've seen what Sheila Johnson's done. We've seen Natalie Esquire. We've seen your man Williamson. We've seen even people like WNBA adjacent media people. We've seen people, for lack of a better word, call Caitlin slurs and still get media passes. We've seen stuff like that happen. We've seen, one of the people calling out harassment towards Ari Chambers is there being buddy in replies with the person who called Caitlin a school SH00TER. And I'm looking at that and I'm like, so, you're out there calling out a large group of people because of 3 or 4 tweets of harassment, which could be deemed as harassment, and which is obviously those people are bad. But you're calling out a group of millions of people because of the actions of 4, but yet on an individual basis, you're not going to call out the actions of one person but you're cool with harassment when it's towards Caitlin Clark. And that's just one of the general things. And unfortunately, Ari Chambers got caught in the crossfire of this. She got caught in the crossfire of, and people are like, oh, like this isn't going to help Caitlin. It's like, I don't think a lot of this stuff is about Caitlin Clark. Like, if you are not white and you are a fan of Caitlin Clark, you have been called a C00N by these people. And if you clap back, and like, it's mad. Like, there are I've been called every name under the sun because my favorite player in the WNBA is Caitlin Clark. Like, I've been called every slur for an Irish person. I get called racist on a daily basis. Why? And I literally remember someone calling out and I was like, why? And they were like, because you're hyping up Caitlin Clark. And I'm like, are you that dumb? And the problem is that a lot of these people are that dumb. Ari Chambers got caught in the crossfire. Ari Chambers did not deserve any of this stuff. Even when you know the context, what does the WNBA have to do with Caitlin Clark Foundation? Anyone has a problem with this tweet, you need deep self-reflection. No. And like, I'm being deadly serious on this. If you know the context surrounding Ari Chambers, and obviously, or if you're going too far, or if you don't know the context and you're not going too far, as in what does this have to do? Someone said, agreed, the WNBA is what inspired Caitlin Clark to become a world-class basketball player, making this donation possible. I mean, at this stage, we can say, I don't know, depending on what you believe in, Adam and Eve are so important. Like, if we actually are going to go that far, I don't know, maybe like she picked whoever handed her first basketball. There's like, why don't we credit them? Like, if we're literally going to be like, without the WNBA inspiring this person, they're not going to be that. And I'm like, how far back do we go then? Like, without her 5 year, do we go and find Caitlin Clark's 5-year-old basketball coach and like credit her/him with every single thing Caitlin Clark has done? Like, where do we go back for that? But I think the problem is that in a vacuum, if you don't know the context, not necessarily that this tweet is problematic, but it reads like a Sheila Johnson tweet. And I think going at her personally is way too far. I think obviously it is. Obviously it is. In all situations, whether you're a fan of Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark, South Carolina, UConn, if you're a dickhead, you're a dickhead. Like, that's the reality of the situation. If you're a bad person, you're a bad person. Doesn't matter who you're a fan of. If you're a bad person, you're a bad person. If you're a good person, you're a good person. And equating fans of a sports player, attributing giving personal, blanket personal insults based on being a fan of a sports player, you are unhinged. And I mean that. You are unhinged if that's your logic. And again, Ari Chambers has been caught in the crossfire of all this because this reads like a Sheila Johnson quote. If knowing the context, there's no reason to have any issue with it. But a tweet that without knowing context reads badly is not a fault of the person reading the tweet without knowing the context. If you get where I'm going from. So the problem, and again, the issue isn't with Ari Chambers. The issue is that we have had a year of your Natalie Esquires, your Matt Williamsons, and we've had a year of people in the WNBA media, again, continuing to interact with people that have fully gone and harassed Caitlin Clark online, that have done exactly what they're claiming these Clark fans are doing, but they're fine if it's towards Caitlin Clark. If there are people that are fans of Caitlin Clark doing it towards others, it's a problem. But if there are people that are doing it towards Caitlin Clark, it's fine. And that's where kind of the hypocrisy is. And the problem is, as always, that a lot of the people that are on the it's cool to harass Caitlin side are there with their media credentials, or they're interviewing players, and they are actively huge problems. Ari Chambers is not that. And I really want to make that a point. She is not that. She just unfortunately got caught in a crossfire of a situation that needs to be stopped in the WNBA. Because again, without knowing the context, you can see why this tweet reads badly. You can. Any rational person can see why this tweet reads badly without knowing the specific context of Ari Chambers and given the context of everything surrounding the Caitlin Clark situation over the past 8 or 9 months. You can see, if you know if you know all the context. Again, I cannot stress it enough. For the people that went too far for personal shots and went even further, I'm not even bothered showing that. That is obviously not okay. But the problem is that this tweet was probably considered freaking harassment. Like, these crazy people would consider this tweet to be harassment. That is how mad it's gotten. Like, again, heck, I got called a racist for saying Angel Reese isn't very good at layups. Because, I'm pointing that out. Does it make me less racist to point out that Kate Martin is probably worse at layups than Angel Reese? Is that a good compromise? I don't know. Do I have to, every single time I say Angel Reese is bad at layups, do I have to pick a random white person that's also bad at layups to not be racist? I don't know about this whole situation, but at the end of the day, it has nothing to do with basketball, and it hasn't. And the unfortunate thing is that Ari Chambers, who didn't actually do anything wrong, got caught in a crossfire caused by the Natalie Esquires of the world. Well, and again, I'm not sorry. That's probably too far. Crossfire caused by them, a crossfire for something that has not been helped by them. And to be fair, you could also argue that the whole situation hasn't been helped by the likes of myself either, but at the same time, like, I'm just talking about what has happened. I'm just talking about what has happened and responding to what people are saying. Like, it's very, very rare that I do anything else, to be honest. Anyway, I'll see you guys.